For the intro of this, right, Kev rock bottoms you, I hit you with a people's elbow, and we'll see how quickly you get up.
Just it's because it's so ironic because you're talking about, you Google like strobe lights, and basically the pyro in any WWE event was an epileptic's worst nightmare.
It was a match.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Raw is Ginger.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the next instalment of Raw is Ginger. We have, as usual, myself and John, and obviously, the man who started it all with us, Mr. Andrew Durning. So, fellas, how are you?
How you keeping?
Not bad myself. Got my tea. Happy.
Yeah. So, I've got to ask, what's the mug? Is it Back to the Future?
It's Back to the Future.
Yes. You'll find this like Toner. He has a collection of mugs, and we always try and find out which one he's drinking out of. Whereas Toner's just got the straight up vodka in a bottle to make it look like water.
I would love it if that was the case, but this marathon training has started, and I think I jumped the gun with how far I can actually run unaided.
In fairness, Alison's the same. One of her pals is wanting to do that kilt walk, and she'd asked the pal to do it. I think 2 years ago, and she said no, and now her pal's had a weigh-in and is desperate to get out of the house because there's a newborn baby. She's like, "Oh, do you want to do it with me this time?" And I was like, "Tell her to fuck off." But nah, Alison's she's like, "Well, it gets me out of the house," and I'm like, "Yeah, well, I prefer staying in the house." So on you go. So for anybody that is watching, Toner, tell them what's the marathon that you're running? What's it for?
So Edinburgh Marathon for Epilepsy Scotland.
I know plenty of epileptics. I mean, obviously yourself used to work with a guy in the financial sector, and also had epilepsy as well. You always used to say it was just like a great way to get an early nap.
It was a great way when I used to probably shouldn't share this, but when I used to be in jobs that I didn't like, I used to work at like Teleperformance, and I hated it. So I used to go into the toilet, get my phone out, turn on YouTube, clicking strobe light shows, take a seizure, be taken away in an ambulance. Then I would get a nap in the hospital, get a drip and that on. So it was Champions League night. So I started at 1:30 until 10. I'd done this about 2:45. So I was in the hospital for 3 o'clock, got a nap, got the drip, signed out at 6, in the house, feet up, watching the football.
It's because it's so ironic because you're talking about, you Google like strobe lights, and basically the pyro in any WWE event was an epileptic's worst nightmare.
Yes. Oh yeah, I mean, I have been at the raw end of that stick several times.
Imagine the irony if you say you've been the raw end of the stick and it was on SmackDown that it happened.
Well, it used to be when I would sit in the dark, get the wrestling on, and both. So then I learned to series record. Yeah,
always a good idea. Well, speaking of the strobe lights, the pyros, and just fireworks generally going off. Well, the one that we're going to talk about today it was Icon v Icon, or as I'm mostly calling it, Icon v Bell End. So, Kev, do you want to give the lowdown on what classic wrestling match we are going to be talking about tonight?
Well, today we're going to be talking about one of the most classic matches from that WrestleMania, which was WrestleMania 18, and it is The Rock versus Hollywood Hulk Hogan in his NWO WWF run.
Mm-hmm. And for anybody that is not aware, we'll just do a wee quick rundown of it. So it was held in the Sky Dome at Toronto, Ontario, Canada, with an estimated attendance of 68,237. Again, because it's the WWF, we have to say allegedly. And the tagline for the match was Icon versus Icon. On the 17th of March, 2002. One thing I was thinking about when I was rewatching all this and thinking back to the previous WrestleMania X-7, which is now regarded as probably the best WrestleMania of all time. And you think about two people that The Rock was working with in those two pay-per-views alone: Stone Cold Steve Austin the first year and Hollywood Hulk Hogan the second year. Now that's got to be a wrestling fan's biggest hard-on, eh?
It depends
I mean,
on
it was a shite match. Like, it had all the ingredients to be brilliant. Now, Hogan was one of the biggest names way back when it first started to kick off and go worldwide. The Rock was major then, but it was a young guy beating an old man who was trying to live former glories. I mean, even watching some of it when The Rock was doing his signature 3 punches and Hogan wasn't even able to take himself over the top rope. At the beginning, I thought, now, slow started, which you expect. Hogan got to do all his signature stuff, feed off the crowd, but I think it probably done more in regards to the names. His name still holds a lot in wrestling, but unfortunately, even then he didn't call it a day.
Yeah,
and I think he should have called it a day a lot sooner.
That was just the start of his comeback tour.
Yeah, his 2002-2003 run. Well, when he also became undisputed champion, beating Triple H, and then instantly, like, next pay-per-view, dropping it to the Dead Man, Undertaker, and his big evil guys. But in fairness, I think there was no other way this could have played. Like, after WrestleMania 18, everybody was living nostalgia. Like, Hulkamania had been resurrected and was walking around like the corpse that it was. But everybody was loving it. They were loving seeing him back because no one thought it was going to happen. And Vince McMahon, love him, hate him, whatever, he knows when business is good. And business was good that night. And one of the attributes of it being not the best match was the fact that they had to completely change it on the fly down to the crowd reaction. Because as we know, but for anybody that is watching, in the build up to this, Hollywood Hulk Hogan is a heel, The Rock is the babyface. But Toronto must have been on some amount of eckies because they were going nuts. For Hogan, completely crazy. And I think we could sum it up with the best part of the match was the stare at the very start. They just stood in the ring and the crowd were just lapping it up. They were loving it, and they're just looking around like, we've already got them. It could be the worst match in the world, but we've got them. And they're starting to boo The Rock and anything that Hulk's doing, they're going for it. So Rock is a very, very intelligent guy and decides, right, we got to switch this up, and starts subtly becoming the heel of the match and letting Hulk take the lead. All his pythons, as they keep calling them, and all the traditional and all that kind of stuff, and playing to the crowds. Because regardless of the wrestling, Hogan knows how to work a crowd. He's good with crowd psychology.
Yeah. And the thing is as well, they didn't really do a complete double turn.
Yeah.
They still had Hogan as the heel in the match, but they had The Rock doing a lot more heel things.
Yeah.
To Hogan.
The thing
the most kind of heel thing that Hogan done was the low blow.
Aye.
During the match.
Which got the biggest. He helped with the belt as well, aye.
And then Rock obviously come back and
then he retaliated and whipped him.
The low blow was probably the most heelish thing, but we've seen quite recently that anybody now takes advantage when the referee's not looking.
Aye.
There's this big massive divide now. There's no, I don't think that nowadays there's no such thing as heels and face.
Now they're
It's
all
just-
kind of the wee grey area.
They're just in the grey area, and they work it, and they decide how the crowd are, who they're with. So it's like they'll be more the face for this match, but you can still do these signature things. And back then is roughly when they started to pick up on, a lot of them can just stay in this grey area and work depending on how the crowd is. And I think it's that match is like the first time that they're like, we can work with this. And to this day, they're still sort of in that middle ground.
Yeah. It was one of the things that was quite, like, watching it back, like, and I watched I'll, as always, watch the promo video. Well, and even in the space of a year, between WrestleMania 17 and 18, the quality has dipped slightly. I mean, I never thought to say that, going from Limp Biscuit to Drowning Pool is a dip. But from the way it was built up, it kind of was. Like that Austin Rock promo, you could have put any music on top of that, but it worked. The Hogan Rock promo, it played to what it was. It more played to the nostalgia rather than what's the current events. It seemed to me a lot shorter, even though I think it was actually longer. But it just kind of was like, I didn't have the same kind of emotion that I had watching it back now. Like because I thought maybe it's just me and my old fartness. That's playing it. But I went back and watched the WrestleMania 17 promo with Rock and Austin, and I still felt that buzz.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, so there was clearly a dip there. But what do you think, Toner? Actually, the thing I want to ask you, Toner, it was meant to be Stone Cold versus Hollywood Hulk Hogan. And obviously, you are Austin 316 to the core. Austin obviously turned that down because he didn't think, it would work. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think it should have went ahead like that? Do you think it was the right call? What's the deal?
I think it would be easy to sit and say whether, as a fan, I felt it was the right call or the wrong call. I mean, for everything that he'd done in the industry and done in the ring, that he obviously had a lot as to why it wouldn't work. And to be fair, the match, as I'm sure we can agree, and a lot of people will, that it was built around this nostalgia. It wasn't built around that these two guys are going to be able to brawl for 45 minutes and this is going to be an absolute slobber knockery a match. This was built around that. And I think especially, these kind of times where Austin was liking, going in and it was like fist fights and it was stomping mud holes and, it was all that. And Hogan just, at this point now, is just not built to go a match of that. I think working in the ring, The Rock can produce that a lot better. He can make Hogan look good at points. And to be fair, I think he can do that better than probably 95% of other guys in that ring. I think that The Rock, especially when you kind of watch him, as Kev was saying in that match, when he picks up in the ring psychology and everything else round about and knows these changes to jump in and make. And even with certain things that Hogan's doing, even at the beginning of that match, he carries Hogan through a lot of this. And I think that was far better than Austin would have been able to. I think it would have been a massive disappointment because obviously you think, you want to see your greater one generation fighting the greater the next. But sometimes you're better not seeing that. And I think for me, in regards to the Stone Cold Hogan saga, it was probably best not seeing that because I think it would have been a massive disappointment. And even off the kind of mic and stuff, and then how it ends as well in the match, can you really imagine Austin ending the match and doing that? Not really. It wasn't in his character to be doing stuff like that and holding each other's hands up in there. But I felt that was the kind of moment that we needed in it, because that's when the crowd were going nuts for both of them, because they were kind of seeing these two icons each generation congratulating each other and giving each other the kind of that nod from Hogan, as if to say, yep, he is that guy.
Yeah. Something I think that annoyed me the most in the promo package was the fact that they were saying it was wrestling's past versus wrestling's future. Rock was gone within about a year. From that point, he came back briefly as Hollywood Rock, the heel Rock, and then ironically took on Hulk Hogan. And again, as a proper heel and a proper babyface rather than the accidental one that we got in this one. But I think that annoyed me the most because, they must have known, WWF and WWE must have known at the time that Rockstar was on the rise. He was already having commitments to do other projects and films and TV and stuff. So why say, it's the past be the future when he was just his future was practically non-existent at this point. If we just said the past be present, fair dues. It was if Rock and Cena down the line, they said it was icon versus legend. That I didn't mind as much back then because The Rock was a legend. Cena was an icon. Like him or hate him at that point, he was an icon. He was carrying the ship through rough times. So that type of thing was good for me. But then it was the whole, when looking back with this, the X8, I was like, the past be the future. If that was the case, they would have had them in. They would have brought Brock Lesnar in sharp and destroyed him. He did that anyway, but that's not the point.
But then I think that, historically, especially at that time, even with the filming and stuff, wrestlers never really done well when they went into films. It tended to be, they never really made it. Hogan tried it. Numerous others tried it, and it never really kicked off. And you feel like, did they have that same thought process surrounding The Rock? Was it a case of, this, we'll let him go out and do his wee Hollywood thing, probably won't go anywhere, his name will get him into a few positions, you'll get a few films, they'll be rated poorly, he'll be back, this is his bread and butter, this is what he does, and we'll then just continue to proceed with that. I don't think they expected the turnaround and the kind of demand that he ended up commanding in films to have happened.
And in fairness, when it came to the films that he started out with at that time, none of us expected it.
No.
I remember his debut, and it was an episode of Star Trek Voyager where he beats the crap out of
7 of 9.
Yeah, Rock Bottom's 7 of 9. And I thought, for TV, it's passable. It was good. It was all right. He got his signature move in. All cool. Then he did Scorpion King. And I thought, okay. CGI was absolutely god awful at the end, but it was 2000s. What do you expect? He's in with Brendan Fraser, who is just, God. Essentially. And then he got his own solo film from that franchise, and I was like, okay, maybe he can't he can't carry something. You should do that on the Gentle Dorks podcast, Kev. Do a review of The Rock's Scorpion King solo movie.
Don't make me watch that. Don't make me watch that. I've just watched the Fantastic Four film. Come on.
No, you watched 4 of them.
I watched 4 of them. Yes, I did.
And then I had to edit the fucker. You were looking for content ideas?
Well, I've got them downloaded. Them downloaded, so it's like...
well, that could be something. But obviously we're kind of veering off point. But I think that actually sums up how good as an actual wrestling match it was. Because we're not talking about the match, we're talking about everything that surrounded it and everything that went on after it. I think we've talked more about the crowd than we have about the match.
The whole thing about that WrestleMania was Vince McMahon brought in the NWO a month previous to kill the WWF as it was. But what
A
he was
lethal
bringing in,
dose of poison.
exactly. But what he
The
was doing
infamous
was
line.
he was bringing them in to kill the NWO. He was putting the final nail in the coffin of WCW.
Mm-hmm.
And when he brought them in, he's like, "This is what I'm doing," and they're like, "Great, fine." They're like, "WCW is gone. The NWO should go with it." They were all in agreement. So with the Austin Scott Hall match, Austin carried that match. Scott Hall said, I wasn't in the best place at that time. I done what I could. And he's like, I praise Steve for making that match as well as what it was.
But in fairness, Stone Cold Austin wasn't in a good place at that point either.
He
He had a lot. He was working through a lot of demons too,
and he was on his way out as well.
Yeah, and it was just getting to that, and it was getting to that stage where he was just about to go, stick the finger up, and go. And I remember watching. You know how they used to do the kind of the kayfabe style interviews with, say, like people like JR and stuff like that. And it was after Austin had walked. And I remember him saying, it's not like Austin just to up and leave just because he's pissed off.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that's not kayfabe. This is legit. Something bad has happened. And then we found out what happened, and we're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But obviously, if you had to put them side by side, Toner, Austin Hall, Rock Hogan, try and take the bias out of it because you're a massive Stone Cold fan. Which one would you willingly go back and watch again?
Oh, the Austin match.
I knew that was coming.
But I think, and to be fair, I would want it to be the Rock Hogan. That's what I would want it to be in my mind. The nostalgia. That's what I'd want it to be. But the match for me was just, it was what it was. It told the story and it done the job. But I think it was more, the dollar signs with, oh my God, how well can we market this? How many people are going to purchase this because of this? Just simply because of this one match. You wanted it to be great, but you knew, and especially now, looking back, because then you're a kid, you get kind of blinded by a lot of stuff, but looking back and watching it, again, it's not, I've watched it several times, but watching it now and you look and you realise, I mean, do you know what, that was, for me, it was probably very underwhelming, but it was the crowd interaction and those spots, where they're doing their signatures that kind of made it.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk about the crowd reaction, actually, since that's kind of the main thing. When I rewatched it, I'd forgotten what the crowd reaction was like. Because, as you said, as a teenager, we're blindsided by the fact you're like, Hogan and Rock are in the ring. What the hell? So when I was watching, some of the bio videos that are on several channels, in the build up to it, just to kind of refresh my memory and stuff, I was like, and they're saying the crowd's going ballistic. I'm like, they surely weren't going that nuts. It must be just your nostalgia thinking about it. And then I watched it, and holy hell, that crowd! I genuinely thought that they were pumping acid into that Sky Dome because they were going ape shit. It was so unreal. I really couldn't believe what I was seeing. And it was like, it felt like I was getting transported back to being that teenager again, but this time I was living it, through the crowd reaction rather than actually watching the match.
Aye. Because I remember sitting up watching it live. I was absolutely pissed.
That sounds about right.
Because I was out for somebody's birthday, and then I come back, and I was like, I'd been out all day, and I'd completely forgot that it was on that night, and then I come back, I was like, oh, that's the night. Good. Sat and just watched it, and I was like, this is brilliant.
Yeah.
18-year-old girl, this is brilliant. It's like watching Hogan come back to WrestleMania. It's like, wait, they keep saying about the time he get beat at WrestleMania. I was like, that's the Warrior, and it was the exact same stadium.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it
was
was indeed.
Oh, is that they keep saying it's a curse for him He's never won at this stadium, so it's like, they're going to beat him. Rock's going to win. As soon as they
Yeah.
were saying that, I was like, right, Rock's winning. They've ruined the
Yeah.
surprise.
Yeah, spoiler alert right away.
Aye.
But there was the fact that, like, even when you watch parts of the match, and you can see Hogan is taken aback by the reaction.
Mm-hmm.
And he said kind of afterwards that it felt like he was stepping back in time to, you know, his WrestleMania 6, the WrestleMania 3, like with Andre the Giant. It felt like the crowd were taking him back to that point. And probably that was why he was kind of started reacting the way he was reacting to the crowd and stuff like that.
Yeah.
A lot of people thought that, you know, he was just doing that type of stuff to benefit himself. We all know what Hogan's like. You know, he know. We always said Ric Flair was the dirtiest player in the game, but out of kayfabe, it's Hulk Hogan. Well, we all know that. Do you guys think he was just playing it to make himself look good, or was he genuinely just working off crowd reaction?
I think it was a bit of both.
Aye. And I love how Kev, I mean, this is an age thing, but I love how Kev came in for a night out. I was at the age where I was watching this after a pot noodle and a wank.
I mean, in fairness, I hadn't figured out the second part yet. I was still on the pot noodle.
but I do agree. I think it was a bit of both. I do think there must have been an element of stunned at the actual action. He would have known, you know, he was never an idiot. He would have known he was going to get a good reaction. But I just think, you know, for him at that stage to then look and be like, holy shit, you know, this is for me. And, you know, and there was an element of that. There was an element of, I'm going to use this platform to make myself look good. You know, that was probably always a plan all along in his mind. So I definitely think, Guy, that would have been a bit of both.
Yeah. I mean, I thought so as well. Like, because he's not an idiot. No matter how many shots to the head he takes, he's still not an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
Like, one thing that I was
Two
quite
Mexicans
surprised.
that disagree.
Yeah, well, I'll steer clear. I'm just avoiding that one. One thing that I do want to ask, because Toner and I have had this debate before about the finishers of these two wrestlers. What Toner had said about, you know, Hulk Hogan, it was like, granted, his finisher is a leg drop. What? And I was like, yeah, but one of the Rock's finishers is an elbow drop. What? And at this point, what, Toner's instantly on the defensive, what, because it's the pageantry of the move, it's the build-up, it's something. I'm like, yeah, but the guy's lying there for a minute and 30 seconds before he actually hits him. And he's got to stand and he's got to lie completely still. But and Toner's also saying, you know,
I think for the intro,
but a geriatric is basically like jumping an inch off the ground and landing his foot on someone's chest.
For the intro of this, right, Kev rock bottoms you, I hit you with a people's elbow, and we'll see how quickly you get fucking up.
Well, considering how long it would take you to do the people's elbow, if you had to do it the way the Rock does, I'd be up and away already.
No chance.
In fact, I would have been rolled around and crawling first, but I wouldn't be in the same spot for 90 seconds plus. So Kev, like, let's see if you can kind of settle it in the battle of the pageantry finishers.
Well, there's been
elbow, leg drop. What one out of the two if you had to pick?
If I had to pick, it would be the people's elbow, because
there it is.
With the leg drop, he has 290 odd pounds. When he was at his heaviest, at his biggest, you know, he has jumped up 6 feet in the air. I mean, in his younger days, you saw the height he got, and then it's like bang, it's like that is going to win you at least. But it's like, I have to agree, at the end of the day, it's just a leg drop. But with the Rocks, it's the build up. That's what gets the crowd going. That's the whole thing, is to get the crowd going. We Hogan, it's just you bounce off the ropes, jump, and that's it. There's no real build up to the finisher. Then you get people that don't really need a build-up, like Austin, kick to the nuts, done, that's you. He can do it literally at any point in time. Like the RKO out of nowhere. It's like there's people that need the build-up because of the type of wrestler they are. And for Hogan, I think if he had a bigger build-up or something, like if there was a movie done before the leg drop that built it up, like a lot of the people that he was around with in like the 80s and 90s, they had like a move before the actual finisher.
Yeah.
So that was the build-up. Like the Warrior, he would do the press and then he'd drop them and just jump on them. Right? Worst finisher ever.
Yeah.
Like, holds them up, drops them, and then jumps and tapping them. It's like, it's the worst finisher ever. But when you're watching that, it's like, that's brilliant. Because it's the build-up, whereas Hogan, it's like,
yeah.
And it's,
at the same time, same time, when you're talking about like The Rock, his build-up to people's elbow is always a spine buster.
Yeah.
He would have the spine buster, and then he'd be like, and do it, start all that kind of stuff. Well, this time was slightly different because like he'd rock bottomed Hogan, and then we're just thinking, and everybody's just thinking, okay, that's it. But now he just decides, spring up, I'm going to do the people's elbow. What? And yeah, the whole crowd are going absolutely bonkers. But again, I think they were on acid. But with the leg drop, do you not think maybe it was more a case of the time rather than the actual pageantry? Because if you think about like, you know, Hogan, what a lot of those wrestlers were, even their pageantry, like you said, the Ultimate Warrior was press up, drop. Well, I think if Hogan had been in his prime in that age of The Rock and Austin, I think the leg drop might have had more pomp to it. I think there would have been more of a kind of build to it and more pageantry. Because you've seen how he would come out with the big fucking feather boa things.
Yeah.
What Hogan's just got that in him. And again, like Austin didn't need the pageantry because he's just like, kick to the nuts, down, that's you. Shawn Michaels needed the pageantry for the sweet chin music. Edge is kind of 50-50, I think. Sometimes he has the pageantry for the, you know, the whole rar and get up waiting to give the spear. And then other times he's just like, no, fuck you, bang. So he's the one that can, I think, kind of flirt between the two.
I think, especially with like Hogan's case, and I think that was based around the time. You know, that was very much of that time when that was what he done. You know, definitely, I think if it was, you know, if that was around like kind of turn of the 2000s and that was when he came in, I think there would have been definitely a lot more, you know, build up, a lot more kind of, you know, getting the audience hyped up, the crowd hyped up for what was about to come next, especially with a guy as big as he was, name-wise in wrestling. That's what you want. You would have wanted to have seen that.
Because, I mean,
just for clarification, how many leg drops did Hogan do in the match? Did he just do one? Or did they do two?
Two, I think.
Two. And The Rock was 3 rock bottoms.
Yeah, it was 2 leg drops because he done the leg drop and then he went for the pin. Hogan got the first pin attempt, and then he kicked out, and everybody's like, "Oh my god, he kicked out of the leg drop! Nobody's ever done that before."
Yeah. So it's like, okay, do it again, and he still kicked out. You get. And that's the thing that it's meant to be. You know, like that's meant to be. You know, the pop for the baby face of like the baby face has finally done it and like kicked out of this, but everybody was like, Ooh, you kicked out that leg drop twice. We don't like you now.
Then bear in mind, obviously, with what happened to the referee during the match, Hogan did tap out.
Yeah.
But the referee was down.
Yeah, he did tap out, but the only registered clean tap out that there actually is Kurt Angle.
Yeah.
And that's where, when you were saying about, you know, the matches that you kind of had after this were showing that, you know, the quality wasn't there. After with the Undertaker, 2 guys that were around the same time, and the Judgment Day pay-per-view, I believe that was, when Undertaker won the title off Hogan, that wasn't a good match.
No.
But so they went, right, who are we going to throw in with this to try and kind of keep Hogan looking all right? They threw him in with Kurt Angle. And if you look at the two pay-per-views side by side, the Judgment Day one and the one he done with Kurt Angle afterwards, it was like night and day, because Kurt quite literally would carry him. And it seemed to kind of cover up the faults, and then that's why he was also moved into the tag team title scene with Edge. Edge, massive Hulkamaniac anyway, and also younger, fresher, and could
carry a match.
Yeah, carry a match and give Hogan time to just kind of sit and be the guy that's in on the rail, just waiting to get the hand in. Comes in, smash, smash, smash. Okay, right, I'm done. Right, Edge, and you go.
Yeah.
Finish him off.
I mean, when you look at the people that Hogan was fighting in his prime, you've got people like the Ultimate Warrior, Earthquake, Sergeant Slaughter, $1 Million Man, Andre the Giant, Macho Man. I mean, these were all people that could run a match without anybody else. I mean, it was actually Hogan that stopped Mr. Perfect from having a WWE title run. Because it was going to be Hogan, Mr. Perfect for the title, and Hogan said, I'm not working with him. He's too good. He's better than me. I don't want him to outshine me. And Vince McMahon's just like, okay. And the Ultimate Warrior done the same with Jake the Snake.
Yeah.
Ultimate Warrior's like, I'm not dropping the belt to him. Nah.
Yeah. And you always found that, like, the egos, like the steroids, were in abundance back then. Yeah. And Hogan, as we have said, he knows how to play the political game of not only, WWF, WWE, but he played in WCW, he played in TNA, he's played it basically everywhere he's went.
Yeah.
And it was one of the things that I liked when they were asking about Austin not doing the match with Hogan in one of the interviews, and he had said, I was at WCW with him. I wanted to work with him, but he didn't want to work with me because I wasn't, seemed to be at his level at that point. So when Vince came to me and was like, do you want to work a match with him? He's like, hell no.
Nah.
I wasn't worth it then, so no bother. Nope, not happening. But in fairness, Austin has said that he regrets not having that match with Hogan, but they did share the ring at one point in a Raw match in the build up to WrestleMania 18, because it was Rock and Hogan handicap match against the New World Order. So they were in one match. It was also the first time that Rock and Hogan had tagged, I believe, or one of the very few times that they tag teamed together, as essentially baby faces at that point. Because thankfully Austin's heel turn was long gone by that point. I mean, that's something just for a wee side one to ask you, Toner, because obviously Austin fan. What when you first saw the heel turn from him, what was your reaction?
I mean, you were like, oh, for fuck's sake, no, don't you? But even at that, I couldn't help but still like him, still want him to win everything, because although he'd had the heel turn, and you could tell, I mean, the crowd massively struggled. A lot of nights they'd go out and the crowd was very 50-50. Obviously, we'd do heel things that would get them booed, but you could see they really struggled to do it. But then Austin says that, throughout his career, it was one thing that he wanted to try, because he was never meant to come in and be that babyface. He was meant to be the guy that get booed, and he's meant to be the heel, and everybody liked it because he stood for, stunning your boss. He stood for that. That's what everybody's kind of dreamt of doing. Very few have. I wouldn't say none. Probably been a few, but
just to clarify, that technically I could be Kev's boss. Please don't stun me.
I'll try.
Well, Walls of Jericho. My wrestler's Chris Jericho. It has to be the Walls of Jericho if you do it.
I mean, the thing about Austin's heel turn as well, it was because they were doing that whole invasion thing, and it gave so much comedy gold.
Yeah, that's true.
Austin and Kurt Angle and Vince as well. Just the sheer comedy that came out of the three.
Mhm.
And also, Austin got the Undertaker to laugh. He had to hide it. You see him go like that to his face when Austin's just repeating everything Vince is saying, and you see Undertaker just going, he's like, "Oh my god, right."
It's like
And
keep
it's just-
character.
Aye, it's one of the only times he's done it.
I know. The ultimate irony is though, like, you know, as a heel, you're not meant to make people laugh. Yet he was the funniest SOB when he was a heel.
Mhm.
The irony was just not lost on me at that point. I mean, at points at that age I was cringing. So I'm like, oh, honestly, mate, like just reel it in. But now I look back at it, I'm like, I can have a giggle about it.
Mhm.
But he can be doing something like that 1 minute, and he's in the 2-man power trip, like, you know, battering Lita with a steel chair the next.
Mhm. I know.
It was
One
it
of the
was-
weirdest wanks I ever had.
I know you. I definitely know that's not the weirdest.
It's one of, he said. He didn't say the weirdest. He said one of. Come on.
Okay,
Glad
okay.
there's one listener here.
I'll give the technicality on that one.
We've all had
So-
weird ones.
Yeah. I've that's why I think I've got early onset dementia.
I'm having one now.
Oh man. Well, this one is definitely gonna get hit with a ton of inappropriate language stuff when we get monetized. I'll just be like, right, okay, I'm just taking that one off right now. The ultimate irony is we're talking about weird wanks and one about Hulk Hogan, considering what it came out in 2015. Oh man. Well, I'm able to bring it back around eventually. That's what she said.
And a very quick side note, Kev, I remember there was a few football podcasts that Andy done and I'd been on, and I remember one time he actually sat and says to me, see the amount of stuff that you say that I just think there's not even a point in bleeping this one. Not even a point. Jeez. I get that it's not going to.
Yeah, because I tried bleeping one of them and it took me 3 days.
Oh.
Yeah, I wasn't as skilled with the software as I was then, but at the same time, every second word was an F or a C, or I'm like, my dad listens to this. You're like, still? But yeah. One thing I did want to kind of talk about the match, like originally the NWO, you know, Kim Nash, Scott Hall, were meant to come out and interfere with the match. You know, to kind of keep solidifying the heel turn. But it didn't happen because of the way the kind of crowd was playing. Do you think they knew not to go out because of the reaction, or do you think it was Vince in the gorilla position telling them, nope?
I've heard a story about this. It was Bruce Pritchard that was telling the story. He said that they were standing in gorilla, sitting watching the monitors and stuff because they knew they were going to have to go out, and then they could hear the crowd change and they're chanting for Hogan. Bruce Pritchard looked over and he could see Kevin Nash and Scott Hall talking. So match was going on, and it was getting to the point, but the referee had just went down, and this is obviously that right. Obviously, they're going to come out.
Yeah.
And they were hyping up to come out, and then Kevin Nash just went to Bruce and Vince and said, "We shouldn't go. Give Hogan his face turn. Give him another go.
Yeah.
Because this will solidify the NWO that you want. Because they already had the idea that they were going to, because Hogan lost, then the next day on Raw they were going to kick him out. That's what it was going to be.
Right.
But they're like, no, we won't go. We'll go out after the match and attack him, and then The Rock can come back out and help, and then Hogan can do his thing. So it was actually like Hall and Nash's decision to say, no, we'll do it here. We'll turn on him here. Think about it. Hall and Nash turning on Hogan when it was Hogan that sort of solidified the birth of the NWO, because until then they were just the outsiders. Then Hogan came in, and that's when it was actually the birth of the NWO. So this was the start of the end, really. So it was them that like, it'll work out better for us. We can get Booker T, Big Show, and Shawn Michaels in. and then
Mhm.
you know, because that's how they were going to do it, and then
Yeah,
do that. But it just started a day quicker.
yeah. And
So
also
it
the
wasn't.
X-Pac.
So it wasn't Vince's idea or Bruce Pictures or any of the
Yeah.
backstage people. It was actually Hall and Nash saying, "No, we'll start it tonight. Think about how big that'll be."
Mm.
So I mean, they knew the business as well as everybody else. I mean, they were basically booking 90% of the matches at WCW for like the past 5 years. We Eric
Yeah,
Bischoff,
but
so they knew.
whether they were good or not was debatable, though.
Yeah, but
Mm.
they knew how to read a crowd. The
True.
NWO was their thing. That's why they won for so long
Mm-hmm.
until they didn't.
Yeah. Yeah, there's lots of people who can blame for that. Vince Russo. Well, just straight away, I was like, no, there's no one else you can blame for that. I was watching a podcast and they were talking about Vince Russo, and the guy said, "It's like the man child with the brain of a child and a man," and I was like, a bit clumsy wording, but very, very true. It was just nuts. But again, I never actually remembered the NWO coming out. At the end, until I rewatched it. I remembered, the finish. I remembered, the kind of like the handshake. And I remember, Rock giving him the chance to flex and basically be Hulk. I didn't remember the bit in the middle. So in a way, what they were thinking kind of was redundant.
Yeah,
So like, think about how great a moment that'll be, but no one fucking remembers it.
But I think it was at the time, though. I think at the time
Yeah.
it was massive, because obviously when you look back now to how long ago that was, I think a lot of even that night gets overshadowed because it was icon v icon.
Yeah. Well, aside from, the Austin Hall match, do you guys remember any of the other matches that was on the card?
There was a lot of 24/7 hardcore stuff going on at the time. So there was a lot of stuff backstage. There was the tag match. Was it the 4-way tag match?
it was. Yeah,
Yeah.
Right after the Hogan and Rock match, there was the Lita match. Wasn't it? There was the women's match.
Lita, Trish, and Jazz.
Aye, that was,
aye.
and then
Triple threat.
the main event that was Jericho Triple H.
Aye, because that was the year that he came back. One of the rare times that he was a babyface. But and also just to, as you mentioned, what the tag team match, it was a 4 corners elimination match. It was between Billy and Chuck, the APA, the Dudley Boys, and the Hardy Boys. So there we go. Well, we got that one in there.
Billy and Chuck won.
Yeah, I'm just double checking. Just to be sure. Yep, they
retained their titles.
Yes, Billy and Chuck retained their titles. Definitely.
This was just before Rico came in, wasn't it? To join them.
Yeah. And then Ric Flair and Undertaker had a no DQ match as well. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
And that's what made the Taker streak in the double digits. That was the 10-0.
Mm-hmm.
Booker T had faced Edge as well. Kurt Angle had fought Kane. And again, there was just a ton of hardcore title shenanigans. And here's one European Championship match between Diamond Dallas Page and Christian.
Yeah,
that's right.
That was. And the Sunday Night Heat thing before it, Mr. Perfect's last WrestleMania.
Wow.
Because that's the year he died, 2002.
Yeah.
And that's the dark match as well that he had with Brock Lesnar was in 2002.
Ah, interesting. And William Regal defended the Intercontinental Championship against RVD, and RVD won his first title.
That's right. I've just literally watched this yesterday, and I can't even remember half the fight. Half the matches.
because there we go. Before the pay-per-view event aired, Mr. Perfect, Landstorm, and Test faced Rikishi, Scotty 2 Hotty, and Albert in a 6-man tag team on Sunday Night Heat. Rikishi won the match for his team after pinning Mr. Perfect following a banzai drop.
Yep.
Imagine that for Rikishi pinning Mr. Perfect. So interesting. I'm rereading it, I'm like, that actually is the case. Yeah, Rikishi.
Yep.
But yeah, crazy, absolutely nuts. Well, I'm trying to see where the other ones are, but yeah, no, that's everything. That was all of them.
Yeah.
What? Yeah, because the Rock and Hollywood Hogan feuded with Kevin Nash and Scott Hall afterwards. The latter two expelling Hogan for the NWO. And then The Rock left shortly after the WWF draft because he was going on to promote the Scorpion King, as we discussed.
Yep.
So, yeah. But if we had to give it like a Dave Meltzer rating, for Icon v Icon, what would you guys give it out of like the 5 stars?
I'd say myself 1.5.
What about you, Tony?
I mean, I'll go with what I thought before I rewatched it again. I'll stick with that, and it was 1.
1. I think this is why I couldn't be like an actual, kind of reviewer, because I'm too nice. I would probably go for 2.5. I would go 1.5 for the match itself, but the crowd reaction and the part that the crowd played is probably what gives it that extra bump for me, because it was something that we hadn't seen a lot of it at that time, where the crowd reaction just totally turned a match. Because it had been a while since, obviously, things like the double heel, the double turn, and all that kind of thing that happened. So yeah, I'll go 2.5. Why not?
I mean, I think the crowd are just so into it, just for the sheer nostalgia of it. It's like when you watch the 2020 Royal Rumble and Edge comes back.
Yeah,
it's like, Edge is back. Is he even able to walk nowadays?
I know. Well, in fairness, at the time of this recording,
he's still jumping about, aye.
Yeah, in fairness, at the time of this recording, there's been the news about Hulk Hogan, potentially being paralysed.
Well, no, they came out and
I know his agent, his reps have came out and said no, that's not the case. But at the same time, reps of Hulk Hogan versus the word of Kurt Angle. Who would you be more likely to believe out of the two?
None of them. Kurt Angle's said he doesn't remember anything.
He's been trapped in his head, forgets a lot,
Yeah, biggest lie that we got told: Kurt Angle doesn't like milk. You told me that, Tony, and I thought my whole life was a lie.
I remember him saying that he genuinely doesn't like milk.
Oh man, that's what we should try and do. If we can manage to wheel in little Kurt Angle facts that you learned from inside the ropes, what for maybe another couple of ones, and just be like, right, here's another thing that's going to ruin your childhood about Kurt Angle.
because obviously the match we're talking about and everything else, and when we spoke about the whole situation around Kurt making him tap, I remember Kurt actually saying when Vince was telling Kurt he was to get into the office, because Vince was going to tell Hogan that you're losing to Kurt and you're tapping out. And he says to Kurt, so you need to come in. And Kurt was like, why do I need to come in? Because you're the boss. He went, yeah, but if I'd won with Hogan, he'll convince me to change it and I'll change it. But if you come in, be a bit intimidating. Now, you're a young guy, be a bit intimidating, like get in his face. And he's like, all right, okay. He said, so then they get called to the office and Kurt's in and Vince is like kind of edging Kurt and he's wanting Kurt to get pushing you right into his face. And Kurt says, and I get maybe a few inches away and Hogan's just staring at me as if, what the fuck are you doing? And then Vince says, yeah, so you're going to lose to Kurt and you're going to tap. And Hogan went, yeah, no bother, brother. And else. And he simply shook Kurt's hand and says, we'll chat about the match later, and walked out. He says there was no animosity, there was none of this, him being an arse. He says he was just so laid back about it.
Well, because he knew, like, if he did try anything with a double Olympic gold medalist, that it wouldn't have ended well.
Can I just say
for either of them
about the actual match with Rock and Hogan? Hogan won clean. Rock won clean.
Yeah, he did.
Hogan didn't try his 1, 2, 3, and then just after the 3, like what he done with Warrior, like when he got eliminated for the Royal Rumble, he didn't help Ric Flair pull out Sid.
Yeah,
it wasn't about him at that point. It's as if he's been in the business for that long that he's actually given back. It's like, right, I will lose clean. So I think maybe with the whole Kurt Angle thing, he's like, this is my last run. This is it. I need to give back. So it's like maybe he's learned a lesson and decided, I have been a bit of a dick. So
I mean, you watch the match we're talking about, the Rock and Hogan. It does genuinely feel like it's one of the matches where you can genuinely see a story, beginning, middle, and end progression through it, and then the torch passing.
Yeah,
and it genuinely had that kind of feeling about it with the way after it and everything it went, and the whole respect thing. So it did genuinely feel like, you're right, about the kind of giving back.
Yeah, definitely did. Kind of, you felt that you were witnessing something special at that point. Well, by the end, and it was the handshake and stuff. What I definitely thought, right, there is like a kind of changing of the guard. And he comes back for his, his farewell tour. Gets one and gets a couple of title runs under his belt, tag title and undisputed. And then we have the whole then he goes on to WrestleMania 19 and kicks the crap out of Vince McMahon, which is pretty damn good. Let's not lie about that one. That was actually all right. That's just the same deal. You want to see him just kick the crap out of Vince McMahon. That's what the fans want. That's what they got.
Any match that involves Vince McMahon getting his head kicked in, people are going to love it.
Yeah, well, that's why I love Vince v. Shane at WrestleMania 17. The soap opera story and the fact that the son got kicked the crap out of his dad on the biggest stage of them all.
And the biggest pop of that match was Linda McMahon
standing up. Yeah.
That's all she done. She stood up. And it's like, yeah. It's like, what?
Yep. It's like she stood up, still had the face like she was comatose. But everybody was going nuts.
Who knew she had legs?
And she knew how to use them.
Thought she was just a lazy bitch.
Maybe that's what actually was. Maybe she was just too tired. And just was like, right, if I've got to do this, can you just make it that I'm like comatose, then you can just push me around for about 4 weeks. And Vince probably thought your dancer means to get a shover downstairs. Or like, oh wait, no, you mean a wheelchair. Damn, I've actually got to move her.
That must have been tiring for her to be getting ploughed off of a steroid freak like Vince every night.
I do not think that was ever happening. I mean, come on. There's evidence they've done it. There's evidence they've done it twice. That's it.
He's paid out that much money that he didn't need to do her.
Aye.
Oh man, we are so going to get sued one day by WWE, but I do not care. It's going to be a fun ride while it lasts. Speaking of which, we have come to the end of the 4th episode of Raw is Ginger. Tona, how are you finding being part of the team now?
Aye, it's good. Enjoying it.
I know. What do you think
We
of
live in childhood memories that aren't always just pot noodles and winks.
Yeah, but sometimes they do literally go hand in hand.
Sometimes you mix the hands up.
Yeah. There were a lot of brand panties matches in that day.
Not enough.
Not enough with Stacey Keebler, I've got to say. But yeah. So yeah, we'll need to think of like a stable name for us. Since there's 3 of us, I will eventually have to tap out, to let you guys carry on with it. So while we end up with a tag team, but right now we're stable. We'll need to get that. We'll get a name sorted, and then everybody can be able. That could be up to the fans. Put a comment. What do you think our stable name should be called? What, Pot Noodles and Wanks probably is the front runner.
Yeah, I mean, you're really leaving that open to
Yeah,
a lot of suggestion.
yeah, definitely.
That's an attitude era stable if I've ever heard one.
Definitely. Like, fuck our corporate ministry.
Going up against
can
right
I-
to centre.
And can I just confirm that match that night, that pay-per-view, it was chicken and mushroom.
Hey,
Was the
good
pot noodle.
choice. Good choice. Well, until next time, everybody, I've been Andrew Durnan, joined by two good friends and co-hosts, John Toner and Kevin Tierney. So until next time, good night.
Yeah.
Cheers.